across last time?
And then
I think you did, but
go to the title card first. There you go. Perfect.
Why did you click that?
So that it would. This is what is actually broadcast.
Oh,
And
you
this
have
is
to
what's
do
gonna
that
come
every
up
time.
next. Yeah. So I can do a cut or a fade.
Usually do cut.
I usually do fade. It's just nicer. Maybe I want that to be my final.
There's something that we need to change on the
And cut just in case.
resolution. It should be working for you.
yep.
Oh, so then
Oh,
you
yeah,
can
we
see
definitely
which
have a
one you like
different
better.
image.
Exactly, and then
Right.
it's like
'Cause
if
it's like
he's
the
on
black on
live,
black.
then
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
look through
No, but
the
there's
slide
also like
and see
these,
what's
so
next.
Oh,
so
I
can,
see.
and then I can put it up before it
And
happens.
is this where you move the stuff before you cut it over?
Interesting.
Yes. So if there's like a screen on screen, I'll
I'll
move
turn
it up
it.
here
And then
I'll
cut it.
fade it out.
Oh, I see.
Cut or fade.
Okay, so at that point we would have things muted. So you want to go ahead and mute the mic. Go, and then you change exactly to the main camera, and then again. So welcome everybody, it's great to having you again. These are webinar series for professionals. We're really excited to be joined today by Max. He's going to be sharing with us our story, so welcome Max. If you want to do a quick intro of what you do and what brings you here today.
Yeah, I'm Max. I run C4 Cycle Works, so we work on building bike prototypes and bike special equipment for especially Olympic cyclists, but really cyclists all over the world doing any kind of competitions.
So hardcore people like you.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like you aspire to be.
Like I aspire to be, correct. No, actually, it was really amazing. We actually highlighted one of your users, and then it goes like that, and then we go to
That was so good. Do you guys want to be closer? Like,
We do
I feel
take
like-
improv
I feel like
classes. Yes.
aesthetically it would
Yeah.
be
Yes.
better if you guys. I mean,
If we were like
sometimes
friends,
it feels
yeah.
really too close, but on camera, I feel like it
Yeah.
looks better if you're closer.
Okay. So yeah,
so much better.
thanks for joining. It's super exciting. How's the sound? Does the sound okay?
Yeah, it sounds okay.
Okay, cool. Right. So as we were saying, Max has shared with us a few of the case studies that he's worked with or examples that he's done. And if we go now to the deck, we'll be seeing some of his work starting off from. And if you go to the deck, so starting off to the this specific one, which was, I understand, she's an Irish track cyclist. That's amazing. She actually recently competed and completed a competition, right?
Yeah, she's now qualified officially for the Olympics.
Right.
So
and
really
what
pumped.
specifically were you developing for her?
So we were developing a number of parts, but especially we were developing some special handlebars for her
Correct.
to make sure that we could really just have it be the most comfortable thing and make sure that it doesn't impede her in any way while she's racing.
So we actually have the sample here, right? So that's it. It's really interesting. And I also wanted to touch on the fact that she's not using the printed part, right? So it's not, you're
No,
not
of course not.
printing the final part for her to use.
What's up?
We should tell them beforehand that if you're going to show something, that you're going to have
Yes.
to raise it.
Okay.
you don't
Right.
have
Yeah.
to-
Raise it to like face level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
cool. So this is not obviously the part that's on her bike. That already is on her bike. But this is one of the prototypes that we made initially. And
Right.
we printed it on a Z18.
Uh-huh.
And then we tried out a couple of different shapes.
Uh-huh.
But once we got it to there, then I was able to take it back to my shop,
Mhm.
work on a CNC, and then eventually do some carbon fiber fabrication.
So that's really interesting. Often people think that it's kind of a one sort of stop for everything when you're trying to prototype something, right? You either choose to do it in a 3D printer or in a CNC machine, or you move back, you select only a single material, aluminum or carbon fiber. But in your case, I think you're explaining us really well how you're jumping between materials, jumping between machines, depending on what the application is, right? And you're sort of progressing through them as you develop your products.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely depends. I think that the Z18 has been really helpful when we're doing that first initial phase and we're sketching out a lot of different designs and trying to figure out, what kind of handlebars does she want at all? Does she want something that bends down?
Yeah.
Does she want something that has more of a curve to it?
Right.
And so we can use the Z18 to really cheaply and quickly make all those different versions and get the rough shape of things.
So we actually have right here, if we go to our webcam view, you'll be able to see the C18 with one of Max's prints. It's a handlebar. Some of your parts now printed on the method, and then it's been an interesting thing to see because of the fact that, you're able to push the limits of what. You're able to push the limits of what you were prototyping beforehand, right? Like, for example, in this part, what's been your experience so far? I know that, we're just getting started with method, and you've had a few interactions with it, but what do you think so far?
Yeah, I haven't gotten to play with it too much yet in my own shop, but what I have gotten to see is just like insanely different from what I've been able to do with the Z18.
Yeah.
The Z18 is still great because I have these great build volumes and I can do the entire handlebar, but the method has this quality where I can really print just even the end caps of the handles and really see the precision and making sure that they are able to really like fit inside of each other and make sure the dimensions are really what kills it for me, because I've used the Z18 to do some calibration for my CNC machine, but the method just brings that precision to a whole other level.
Right. No, and it's interesting because again it touches on that idea of not having a single single machine for the whole shop, right? It sort of complements each other, whether it be the method or the CAC, the CNC or the C18, right? It changes depending on the application and what you're trying to do, right? How do you see that happening, throughout? If you had, hopefully once you have the method and the C18 in your shop, how do they work with the CNC and with the, later on with the carbon fiber weaving and so on and so forth?
Yeah, I think that, the CNC and the carbon fiber tend to get really expensive, so we don't want to use them until we're really ready to have a finished prototype. I don't want to have to make 5 different versions of CNC because it's a lot of effort, a lot of time, and a lot of cost for those materials. So the method is really going to be able to let me do a lot more prototyping ahead of time and print everything to really finalize product essentially until we're really good. We can install that onto the bike.
Yeah, and I'm really curious. Okay, we have a few questions over here.
What kind of materials can you print on method?
Right, so we've been asked this before. We're being asked, what are the materials that we can use in the method? And then, so I'll take that for now. It's going to be, right now we have PLA, or tough material, PVA for supports, and PETG is coming up. We have a few others that are being worked on, which are pretty exciting, I think. We have a full roadmap of materials that's coming up. We'll probably get you guys informed as we go. But
Just thinking.
yeah, no, it's usually like that. So, and another thing, of course, we talked about it as we announced your webinar, and it's also a personal question for me. I want to know more about the process for carbon fiber specifically, right? How does that happen? Do you just buy the fiber? Do you weave it yourself? If you can talk a little bit on that side of the process. And we have a few slides here, so if we go back to the slides and the pictures that we've covered before, right? Many of basically your brand is around carbon fiber.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you see on the slides, I have no idea what I'm actually talking about, but you pretty much can buy the material.
It'd be nice if you guys take breaks and talk to the camera. Just that would be something that might be nice.
Okay, cool.
Especially when
So I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But essentially, you can buy the CNC. You can buy the carbon fiber as essentially like a sheet of fabric, and then operate it kind of like a milliner, like a hat producer will make.
Okay.
I can even technically use the mold of the CNC machine as a base for it, then wrap the fiber around it, and seal it on.
And how straightforward is the process for you? Do you do it in the same shop? Do you usually have somebody else cut it for you beforehand?
Yeah, I have a separate section of the shop that I do it myself.
Okay.
And so it's kind of a full in-house production, but it is a very painstaking process. And once I get started with a piece, I can't actually stop. If I can't set it down, or the piece is ruined. So I really have to make sure that when I'm ready to do the carbon fiber mold, I'm ready to go.
That's amazing. And then speaking about the resin that you use for carbon fiber, I mean, if we can get a little bit to the technical aspect of it, what are the types of resins that you usually use, and what are the effects on the performance of the part at the end?
Yeah, again, I have no idea what I'm talking about. So the different resins really matter a lot, I'm sure, and they have different properties for, if I want this glossy, shiny resin, it's good for aesthetics, but sometimes it can actually produce slippage on the handles, which is the opposite of what you want for an Olympic bicyclist. But I have no idea what kind of resin works well for this.
Oh, that's amazing.
Exactly why we brought you.
Okay, so
because I am the expert.
So the last bit that we haven't touched on as well is, sometimes if you think about the carbon fiber process, you were describing this idea of fibers, and then the way that you lay out the fibers. So if we draw them here, I'll have a marker, but if we draw the fibers here, right, you want them to be crisscrossing each other, right? So that's kind of what you're describing, to give them more strength and structure to the part, right? It's funny because it also relates a little bit to what happens on 3D printing, right? Where depending on how you orient the part, you'll change the way that the part behaves, right? You have the springs here where, you have one that if you squeeze it one way, it'll flex, but if you print it in the other way, like in this one, it shatters.
Sorry, how did that happen again? I think. Did I say that we have a question?
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah, can you do that again?
So, going back to the drawing board, right, so it's really interesting that, it all depends on the process that you're following, and you sort of have to keep in mind the options that you have, the limitations that come with each of them, and they all sort of complement each other. They don't necessarily compete, right? But it depends on what you're trying to do at any given point of the development, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, thanks. Well, thanks everybody for joining. And right now we would like to open the floor a little bit for questions that you guys might have for Max, myself, and if you want to take it away, what some of the questions that we have so far. Julia and Anastasia are behind the cameras. Big shout out to both the team. Mateo, Julia, Anastasia. You guys are not seeing them. I'll show you with the webcam maybe. And then, but yeah, if you guys want to fire away some of the questions that we have.
You've mentioned a lot of machinery. What's the most cost-effective way for me to prototype my products?
Right, so I'll phrase that again just to make sure everybody hears that. So the most cost-effective way to prototype products with the different machines that we...
Yeah, I mean, definitely the cheapest of all these machines is a 3D printer. It allows me to produce a lot of things with not a lot of material.
Yeah.
CNC is a really gigantic machine, and it's huge. There are some desktop machines, but regardless, it's a what's the word? Subtractive manufacturing.
Correct.
So you have to have a lot of material, and you leave only using a little bit of that material. So a lot of it just goes to waste. Where with 3D printing, in this case with the handlebars, the only material that we waste is the support.
Yeah, I'm actually impressed that you got your technical lingo
Thank
dead on. That's really cool. So yeah, and to be fair, it depends, right? They all have their better qualities and worse qualities. As you're saying, subtractive might be more precise, and you might be using more of the final product, aluminum, composites, and so on. And with 3D printing, where you're actually using thermoplastics, right? So
exactly. And I don't know if I've ever met anybody who really prototypes using a CNC machine. They tend to already know what they want to do when they're producing something.
And that's one thing that we see a lot, right? It's kind of this idea of being able to prototype in the cheap material so that you're able to not waste the expensive one, right? Just, how, at a ballpark, what's the price of a bulk chunk of aluminum for you to route from?
It's not a pretty penny, I'll tell you that much. It's definitely a
ugly penny.
one. Yeah, exactly. It's an ugly penny.
That's good.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't know if you have any more questions. Otherwise, Max, again, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we'll be talking some more.
It's been a pleasure.
We're excited to see more of what you do. If you want to follow him, we'll be posting, some of your contact information probably.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
I think it's on the slides.
It'll be on the slides. So thanks again for joining us. Do shout out to hello at MakerBot if you have any follow-up questions or any comments about future webinars, things that you guys would like us to discuss in the next one. It's great. Now we're in the third one or fourth one, correct?
It's fourth, yeah.
So it's been 4 of them. It's really exciting, and hopefully we'll be keeping them coming. But again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.